start with the Leetonia Bears coming off a season that was really great for their program to see some success. They finished tied with two other teams at the top of the EOAC, but they still get to say that they were EOAC champions.
Yeah, the other two teams you're referencing to, Anthony, is United and Southern Local. All those three teams were 5-1 to finish the regular season. Going into playoffs, United finished 7-3, Leetonia 7-2, and Southern 5-3. Looking at the Leetonia Bears, though, going into this season, their offense is going to be pretty exciting to see. As we do know, they went into last year 5-1 in the regular season, but their offense was one of those teams that averaged over 30 points a game. So a very high scoring and productive offense. Losing a few pieces on offense, though, it's going to be interesting to see what this Leetonia Bears offense is going to be made of. Losing guys like Marco Ferry, which was a huge piece for that Bears offense. Jordan Baker at wide receiver, a few guys on offensive line like Mason Mellinger, Gannon Shepard, Braden Duco, guys like that, as well as Dylan Lennon, their quarterback last year. So there's a lot of pieces that are missing. They're returning some guys that are going to be interesting to see, though. Jake Mccool, what's great name for a receiver, too. Senior receiver to be watching for this year. You really hope that he puts numbers up because you want to say that name a lot. Mike Miller, the senior fullback for them, another one guy. LJ Rosa is going to be the junior offensive lineman. And after kind of an overhaul on offensive line where a lot of seniors have left this team, he's one of those guys that is left standing as that lone offensive lineman. And I feel like a lot of these younger guys are going to take to him really well because LJ Rosas just seems like that kind of guy that's just really likable on that offensive line, kind of quiet, and just really seems like that nice guy. But Joe Guido is going to be the guy to watch for. He's going to be stepping in as the new quarterback for the Bears, and he's going to be really what we see in this Bears offense to see if they didn't skip a beat from last year to this year, or if there's a little bit of learning to do yet. But Joe Guido, going to be interesting to see what he's made of as he gets his first serious minutes at quarterback this year.
Yeah, I mean, when you lose someone as electric and as fun to watch as Marco Ferry, and he was a big chunk of that offense. I mean, I bet if you bring up the total rush yards compared to his rush yards, he would have a huge percentage of Leetonia's yards gained, probably a huge percentage of their touchdowns. He was just so much of what made that offense go. But now they have a lot of other people that are able to kind of step in the spotlight this year, including Guido, who's going to be running almost as much as he's throwing, and he's a big boy. So look for him to be a dual threat kind of quarterback that can really hurt people with his feet just as much as with his arm.
Yeah, and I mean, going to just transition more towards that quarterback beating him than the running back. And of course, it's not going to be easy to replace a running back like Marco Ferry, who I believe led all of the EOAC in rushing yards last year and rushing touchdowns. He had over 20 in the touchdown category. I know that. So someone that is as productive as that, someone that is as big of an offensive threat as that out of the backfield is going to be hard to replace. But Leetonia is very creative in their offensive schemes. And I think with the running backs that they have and with Guido behind center now, they're going to be able to think of some offensive plays, maybe some trick plays thrown in there as well. But I think this Leetonia Bears offense is about to get really creative and figure out ways to score points this season.
It wasn't just their offense, their defense gave people problems last year too. Talk about some of the things that made their defense so special, what they're returning, and what they're going to have to be replacing on defense.
Looking at Leetonia's defense, as you said, Anthony, one of the best, just outside of the top 10 in the area, as they allowed only just under, I believe, 18 points per. And I mean, guys that are returning, a lot of them are just guys that play both sides too. As we already mentioned, guys like Mike Miller plays linebacker, Jake Mccool plays linebacker, and LJ Rosa plays defensive line too. And I mean, it's pretty much the same guys too that we've talked about that were lost, because I mean, we talked, the EOAC usually uses a lot of two-way players. So I mean, guys like Jordan Baker played both ways. He was a defensive back. Marco Ferry was a linebacker. Mason Mellinger was defensive line. Gannon Shepard defensive line. So a lot of the names that you're hearing on offense, they played both ways on defense too. So it's not only a loss on offense, but it's a loss on defense as well. But on the flip side of things, too, the guys that you're returning is a return on both sides as well. So guys like your Jake McCools and your Mike Millers and your LJ Rosas are going to be productive in not just one area of the game, but two. So, I mean, these are the guys that you're going to be looking for. Both Miller and McCool, of course, your seniors to look towards this year. But I think those are the two that are really going to need to be filling up those leadership roles this year and say, guys, I mean, we lost a lot on offense and defense last year, but we could still be this dangerous team. And I think it's up to those guys to really take the bull by the horns and grab this team and say, hey, we can get right back to where we were last year.
When you look at that defense, I think one of their strengths is going to be their front. I mean, they're going to have a returning linemen, returning linebackers. They're going to be really hard to run against in a league that likes to run as much as the EOAC does. Their defense might not lose a beat this year. I mean, especially in the linebacking core. Going to be really well led and really disciplined.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike Miller is really going to be the guy to watch for that. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks 100 tackles this year. Came very close to it last year. Just came, I think, a few shy.
Now he'll have 4 more games. 10 games slit. You might as well lock in 100 tackles for him.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Leetonia, I believe the 97 tackles were in 9 games or 8 games last year that he played in. So yeah, 1 or 2 extra games, he should be able to do that. Plus another year of experience under his belt. We expect him to get better and take that next step in his progression. He's going to be a dangerous man this year, and he's definitely going to be a man I would not want to run against.
He's one bad man.
But yeah, I think this year for Leetonia, I think really it's just going to see what they lost, but see if they can get back to where they were, because they did lose a lot, but they still have some talented pieces on this team and some younger guys. We didn't say a whole lot of their names last year, but you might be saying a lot of their names this year.
Let's talk about Leetonia's schedule and what they have in front of them. I know they opened the season against Sebring, which we talked to Coach Seidel on Friday. He's looking forward to that matchup. It'll be a neutral site. Talk about what else Leetonia has on their docket.
Well, yeah, after the Sebring game, they go to Matthews, and that one's going to be at Matthews. Right now, I believe they have a game open on September 3rd. I'm going to have to check on that to make sure that's still true. But then September 10th, they're home versus East Palestine. 17th, home versus United. 24th, home versus Valley Christian. October 1st, at Southern Local. 8th, home versus Lisbon. 15th, at Columbiana, and 22nd at Wellsville. So you're looking at a schedule right now where, again, they play most of the EOAC for the last 7 games of the season. They have 2 games non-conference scheduled. It looks like they're looking for 1 more non-conference game to schedule in there. But non-conference wise, touring a little bit, seeing both Sebring and Matthews. But this is a schedule that I look at, and I mean, it's a schedule that Leetonia is going to need to be efficient in. You're playing most of the EOAC in the schedule. You're going to need to really be you're going to need to be efficient on that offense and defensively. You're going to need to try to not miss a beat. I think is going to be the key for Leetonia. If you could figure out where you could score points against some of these teams and not really miss a beat on defense, or be pretty efficient on defense like you were last year, I think this is a very successful season for Leetonia. But there's some teams on here. That one game, that 5th week game, that United game, I think is going to be a really telling sign going forward for Leetonia.
The game I have circled is Columbiana, because they didn't play last year, and that's a big rivalry, and they're going to be gearing up to really play each other. And I know there was everyone wanted to play last year. The teams wanted to play. The players wanted to play. It just didn't get done for other reasons or another. But Leetonia's going to be really looking forward to that Columbiana game to really test their mettle and beat one of the rivals that they haven't played in a while. So I'm circling that Columbiana game.
Especially with it taking place October 15th, a week 9 game too, right before the end of the season. I mean, we talk playoff implications. I mean, we know how these teams were last year, and Leetonia, we'll have to see if they're taking that step forward, if they're staying where they were, if they take maybe a little bit of a step back with everything that they lost last year. Going to be an interesting season, but I definitely think that game's going to be big. I already said that September 17th game versus United. I think you're hard pressed not to mention the October 1st game at Southern as well. Leetonia, United, and Southern, the 3 teams that tied for the EOAC last year. I think you got to be looking at those games and really just see how these teams compete against each other all throughout the schedule.
The thing about all 3 of those, they're all losing pieces of the puzzle that made them really good last year. So it'll be interesting to see which program kind of navigates those waters the best and puts their best foot forward. All 3 are coached by very good seasoned head coaches. We don't expect any of them to struggle with been there, done that, because obviously this is what high school is about. Every year you lose seniors that were special. You have to kind of bring the next man up. So these coaches aren't going to miss a beat, but it's going to be interesting to see which team can, have the next guys step up into bigger positions this year, and which teams take that first step in the EOAC.
I think that's always the biggest key too, because I mean, a coach can only do so much. A coach can put you in the best position you can to win. He can only take you that far. It's up to the players the rest of the way. And really, it's like you said, Anthony, how many players are ready to take that next step? How many of these young men and women are ready now to take that next step and fill those leadership roles? We're not just talking football. I mean, that's all sports too. But in just the confines of football, yeah, it's really what guys are ready to take that next step, either on offense or defense, and really lead their team and say, hey, this falls on me. We're gonna go and we're gonna play our hearts out, but I mean, a lot of this falls on me. It's me, and that's what it takes to be a leader. And I mean, it's how many of those guys around the area are willing to do that, and that's where you see those teams that maybe we weren't talking about, and those guys we weren't talking about last year. We start mentioning their names a lot more then.
I love that you said that there's only so much the coach can do. Like I think more fans need to get that, no matter what level of sports you're watching. The coach could call the best play in the world. Still got to go be executed. You know what I mean? And sometimes it doesn't get executed, and then you see the coach get toasted on Twitter or something, and it's like, play call was great. He can't catch the ball for his team. He can't make a good throw for his team. Whatever it may be, there's only so much he can do. Or
you can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, though. I mean, that's the perfect analogy for it, though. I mean, a coach can have the game plan in place. He could have the best culture. He could have the best philosophy. If you don't have the pieces and that are willing to mesh and mold and conform to this culture, it's not going to be successful. And that goes for any coaching style or any coaching offense. You need the right players and coach the right players the right way to be able to mesh them and mold them. And not every time is it a coaching issue.
One thing's for sure, Leetonia Coach Julio will definitely have them ready to go and put them in the best position possible. And the Leetonia kids will be very ready to make that step if they're able to. So
especially if you're in the running back or quarterback group that likes to run, because we already saw what he was able to do with Marco Ferri and really build him up through the ranks. I mean, you got to be excited if you're a runner on this Leetonia offense.
It's got to be not exciting for the teams to have to play them.